Hey there, friends, and welcome back here to the Productive Homemaker. Tonight, I am doing a late night baking session. We were out late, and I want to get a head start on breakfast tomorrow morning. So why don't you come along with me while I work on some homemade biscuits, and then later on in this video, I'll go through some free food that we received, as well as a nice little surprise video at the very end of this. I hope you enjoy. This is the basic biscuit recipe that I follow. Flour, two eggs beaten, butter, lard, whole milk. It's always best to use a full fat milk if you can. And then baking powder and some good salt. Biscuits are extremely versatile. You can add in so many different flavors and cheeses, making them sweet or savory. And so if you're first learning how to cook from scratch to save on your budget, biscuits are a very good starting place. They don't take a lot of ingredients, and there's really nothing special about them. So we'll add in all of our flour here. And then we will also gently mix in our baking powder and our salt. A salt is another important ingredient that I try to buy higher quality instead of just purchasing whatever is cheapest. I personally go for the Redmond salt that you can purchase online. It's based out of Utah in the United States. Many folks will tell you that you can use a food processor, a pastry blender, and forks in order to cut in all of your butter and your lard into your biscuits. I personally, for the most part, just like to use my fingers. There's something about touching it. You start to learn the consistency of what your dough should feel like before you add in your liquid ingredients. Getting to know your food and being in the moment with it is really helpful, especially as you're learning how to bake and cook, because a lot of these things take a specific consistency, and it's always easiest to know what that means and what it looks like for your cooking whenever you're touching and feeling the products. Now that we have incorporated all of our lard and butter, you'll notice that I've got a really crumbly texture to my flour mixture. We'll go ahead and add in our milk and our beaten eggs, which I forgot to show you in the video, so my apologies, but we'll go ahead and mix that all in. And you'll notice that I had to add in just a little additional flour. As the seasons change and our air is drier, I do tend to either have to add or take away some of our flour. You can also wait just a minute or two and allow the flour to fully absorb all of the liquids that you put in to see if you need to add in just a little bit more. Gently finish incorporating your liquid into your dry ingredients. Throw some flour out on your countertops and then bring your dough ball out onto your countertop. We're not going to be kneading this. We're going to treat it very gently and kindly and push it out with our hands and then finish rolling it out with a rolling pin. After gently rolling it out, we're going to then fold our dough into thirds. Now, we're going to do that thirds process twice, and what that does is it adds layers to our biscuits, which makes them really flaky and soft. Now we can flatten out our dough, probably to about a half an inch is my normal. I try to keep mine a little smaller since I have small mouths that I'm feeding, but you can make them as thick or as thin as you want to. Using a regular sized mouth mason jar lid works perfectly for me since I don't own a biscuit cutter. And I just cut them all out. Now, if you are a single person or you have a smaller family, then you can actually take the biscuits at this point and flash freeze them to store in your freezer. What you do is you just put them into a pan and put them in your freezer for about 30 minutes, and then you can pull it out and pop them into a Ziploc bag to keep them in your freezer for quick meals in the morning time. It's a very easy and a really great way to do some meal prepping. While I was prepping the biscuit dough, I started my oven so that way it could preheat at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And after I lay out these biscuits on parchment paper, I'll go ahead and pop them into my oven for about 15 minutes. Now you can make them really beautiful by spreading out some butter or milk on top of your biscuits to give them a golden brown color, but it's not necessary. Now that my biscuits are done, I'm moving on to my next task in the kitchen tonight, which is peeling and coring some apples that we received for free. Now, I'm not above taking free food when it's offered to me. In fact, I deem it as a blessing. Had we not accepted these free apples that were overflow from county lunches, they would have actually been thrown into the landfill. So instead, I've brought them home and I am turning them into apple butter to feed my family. And all of my peels will be going into that jar to be turned into apple cider vinegar. There is no waste, and all of this is free to me, which is just an amazing, amazing blessing. Doing mundane tasks like this, like sitting here and chopping up all of these apples, leaves me a lot of time to really think and reflect. And as I'm sitting here doing this, we are a week out until Thanksgiving, which is a special time. It's a great time to reflect and think about all of the blessings that we've been given. Sitting here, I was thinking back about the year that my husband lost his job. And to be honest, that was probably one of the most trying years of my adult life so far. The beginning of that year had started with a multi-state move for work, the world shutting down, the death of my father-in-law, and then the birth of our third child. We didn't know which way was up or down. We didn't know what the future held for us. It was a really long and dark valley. There were many nights that I would kiss our toddlers, tuck them into bed, and then sit down and cry while I rocked our newborn. We were drowning not only in grief, but also in financial crisis. As the summer passed that year and the holidays fell upon us, there was still no sign of a solid job. My strong husband worked from daybreak to sunset at any odd job he could get his hands on. And when he wasn't on a job site, he was door dashing. Through only our faith in trusting God were we able to see through this time. Thanksgiving came round, and it was hard to see the point in celebrating. We were tired, ragged, and beat down. One day we were gifted a box of pantry staples from a sweet friend at church. And when she came and knocked on my door, she said hello, and as she handed me the box, she looked at me and gently whispered, just hold on. There's a reason for this trial, and we have to believe that. After she left, I stood in our tiny kitchen unboxing her gift, and I cried, just thinking about what she'd said to me. I looked out across the room, and I watched my 5-year-old and 2-year-old playing sweetly together, and my tiny baby sleeping in her swing. There is a reason and a lesson for our trial. How many times did I repeat that to myself? With that statement from this wise woman, my hope was resparked. She didn't change our circumstances, but what she did change was my perspective. These crashing waves of life rocking our boat weren't on accident, because there's nothing in life that happens on accident. She helped me refocus, and even though on surface level, it didn't seem like we had much to be thankful for, we actually had so much. A new life had joined our family, and she was as sweet as a summer rose. Each month, as our bills came due, we were somehow able to pay them. It happened more than once that an extra job would just so happen to come up that paid the exact amount we needed to break even. We had a roof over our heads, food in our bellies, and each other. You see, that Thanksgiving is one that I can look back on fondly now. We didn't have much, but we had our family and each other. And she was right. There was a lesson in that year of our life. In fact, it was such a drastic lesson that it led to our current life we have today. It showed us that we can do hard things and that we are sturdier than we give ourselves credit for. Life doesn't ever get easier. We simply get stronger. And my friend, if you find yourself in a hardship this year, just know that you aren't alone. There are many who have, are, and will walk difficult trials too. But we just have to remember that there is a reason for it, even if we can't see that right now. And if there's no room for extravagance or extras this year, you still have so much to be thankful for. If you woke up today to hear the birds sing and to breathe in the crisp autumn air, then there's much to give thanks for. I really love thinking about these things, and it just makes me remember how blessed we are in this life. We made it through our box of apples. So I ended up with a gallon of scraps to turn into apple cider vinegar, which will be delicious for future meals and cleaning. And here is a peek at all of my apples slowly simmering in the pot. This batch I'm turning into some apple butter. It will taste delicious on our homemade bread. The last chore of our night was starting our navy pot full of beef suet, which is just a ground up beef fat. We were also blessed with this free to us, and it's going to slowly cook down and render on my stove overnight. And I will be turning this into a cooking fat called tallow, which I can use to cook with and also turn into homemade lotions. Not only does the tallow add really good flavors to whatever dishes I'm cooking, it's also a much healthier option to feed my family instead of purchasing canola or vegetable oils. If you have any local butchers in your area, you can often call them and ask them if they have any beef fat that they're wanting to get rid of, because a lot of people don't understand the benefits of the actual animal's fat for cooking. So most of the time, our butchers are over inundated with tallow and fat, and they just throw it away, which is such a shame because this oil is so beautiful and healthy. If you've hung out with me through all of my chores this evening, thank you so much. And I want to give you a sneak peek at some of our new bunnies that we are raising for meat. I hope you enjoy this little clip. Gentle girls. Gentle, gentle.